Together, growing in faith, changing communities.
Together, growing in faith, changing communities. Dear friends, I'd like to welcome you to this, our episode. Once again, we welcome you and I hope that you've been doing well. If you are new in this series, I'm inviting you to please relax, enjoy them, and hopefully you will subscribe. And please do share your comments with us. They are of great importance to us because they allow us to share the word and also to discover and to grow in our understanding of the word. My name is Father Ngcobo. I'm a Catholic priest in the Archdiocese of Durban in South Africa. Today I would like us to reflect on the Gospel of Luke chapter 5. Now this is an interesting Gospel account where Jesus enters into the lives of Simon and his friends. Now when Jesus comes in, he comes in by the Sea of Gennesaret or the Lake of Gennesaret. And when he gets there, he sees two boats at the shore and he sees the fishermen, they are busy washing their nets. And Jesus approaches them and he jumps into one of the boats and he starts preaching. Now, let me just pause there for a moment and let's analyze the story of these two fishermen that are busy washing their nets. They've been fishing all night long, and unfortunately, they were not able to catch anything. Have you ever felt like a failure? Have you ever reached a stage where you want to give up? You want to hang those soccer boots and you want to walk out of this? Have you ever experienced in your own life, in your own marriage, where you say, I'm done. I've given this my best. There's nothing else to give. Have you ever given everything of yourself to a point where you say, I have nothing else to give? Have you ever cried to a point where you say, I have no tears to share anymore? There's no tear to shed anymore. I've given my all, my everything. I'm looking at these fishermen who are probably devastated. Because we need to realize that these are fishermen by trade. They needed this catch in order to go to the marketplace to sell and to take the money and some food back at home. They are hungry stomachs. They are hungry people there waiting for mom, for dad to deliver. Have you ever felt the weight and the burden of life putting you down, pressing you down? You know, one of the greatest things that one comes to realize as we grow older in life, you know, the pillow that we use when we're sleeping, that pillow knows so much of our emotional battles. It knows so much of our tears. It knows so much of our pains. And so when Jesus comes in, he sees a group of men who feel like they have failed. They probably are grumpy. They probably are irritable and they want nothing to do with anyone. They're not willing to talk to anyone. We are not told that they say anything or they share anything, but we can see in their faces, we can read between the lines, the tension that is going on in them. What about those who are struggling in their own marriages? What about those who are struggling and who are believing that divorce is probably the only thing? Have you ever given up in something or someone that you still love, where you say, I've done it all. I've given it my best. What about those who say, I cannot work like this anymore. I cannot continue like this anymore. Those who say, I want to walk out of this. What about those who walk out of your life? Those who say, I'm done. I'm giving up. I'm walking away. It doesn't matter whether people see me as a failure or not, but I'm not willing to continue. I'm not willing to do this ever again in my life. And so these are the group of men that we find. And Jesus walks. It looks to me that Jesus walks past them. He goes through them without talking to them. And he jumps into the boat. Probably he must have asked that, may I please use your boat? And they probably said, whatever you want to do, just do it. They don't care. They've lost everything. And Jesus continues to preach. But there's something that amazes me in this Gospel of Luke chapter 5 from verse 1 to verse 11. When Jesus finishes with whatever he's doing, he turns and he looks at Simon and he says, why don't you put out into the deep? Why don't we go into the deep? And Simon looks at Jesus and he says to him probably, you know what? I've been doing this for years. I've been a fisherman more than you can ever imagine. And so Simon says to him, I know what I've done. Don't come and tell me how to do my job. Don't come and tell me where to go. Don't you think I've done that? I'm not sure if you've ever experienced that in your life, where you've given your best, where you've tried everything, and someone just comes in with an opinion, with an advice, and you like say to yourself, but I don't need that because I've done it. I've tried it. It didn't work. Have you ever worked with people when you bring something to them, they say to you, well, we've been there, we've done that. It didn't work. And so they block everything. And so in Simon's heart, his pain and his loss allows him not to let Jesus in. So when Jesus wants to help him, he says, I want to help. And Simon says, I'm not ready. I don't want to. Have you ever reached a stage where you fight the person that you need the most? That you kick out that which you need the most? And this is what we find in Simon. It's not that he doesn't want Jesus. It's not that he doesn't need help. But he's probably afraid of failing again. And sometimes we go through these as human beings. I'm scared of failing all over again. I'm scared of going through the same pain all over again. I'm scared of forgiving you, bringing you back into the house, and you hurting me all over again. I'm scared of that. That is a human fear. I'm scared of trusting you again. I'm scared of opening my heart all over again. I'm scared of loving you all over again. I'm scared of giving myself to you all over again. And how many of us struggle with that? How many of us are so scared of that? How many of us are not willing to let go of the past? Even if we do let go of the past, we're too scared of hanging on to someone else, of hanging on to something else. And so he says to Jesus, we've done that. Jesus said, let's go to the deep. I want you to throw the nets into the deep. And Peter says, no. And sometimes our achievements, our past achievements, our accolades, our degrees, the certificates we have, those that hang on our walls, they tell us that at once we were so great, we were so good, but now things are falling apart. My degrees, my achievements, my accolades, my trophies are not getting me out of this mess. I need help. And sometimes the pride in us, the fear in us, the hurt in us prevents us from asking for help. How many people struggle and suffer silently? How many people are unable to get help because it's just too much to bear? There's something that I like in Simon. Even though the pride in him is past experience of having worked all night long and without catching anything, even though he knows all those things, even though his knowledge of the trade has taught him that it's not going to happen anytime soon, he has faith. Have you ever experienced faith in a crisis? Have you ever reached a stage in your life where being strong is the only thing you can do? Have you ever experienced that moment in life where you say, I have nowhere to go to. I have to be here. I just have to do it. No one else can do it but me. And so I love the faith of Simon. This is a faith in crisis. This is a faith that tells him, I don't know what will this do. I don't know how will this end. I don't know what you want from me. But at your word, I will lower the nets. And that is crucial. At your word, I will lower the net. I do not know what you want from me. I do not know what you want from my marriage. I do not know what you want from my abilities, but at your word, I will do that. This is crucial because Peter does not necessarily know Jesus. Well, he's still known as Simon. He probably doesn't know who this man is, but is able to say, I will take you at your word. Your word is important. And I trust you because I cannot trust myself. You are leading me to something that I've been and I've failed, but I'm willing to trust you. It's called a leap of faith. It's called trusting someone else. It's called trusting God. So he's willing to take a leap of faith. He is willing to trust in the divine providence. I do not know what tomorrow will bring, but I know that God holds tomorrow in the palm of his hands. I do not know what will become of my family. I do not know what will become of my church. I do not know what will become of my work. I do not know what will become of my children. I do not know what will become of my marriage. I do not know what will become of my spouse. I do not know what will become of this relationship. But I'm willing to trust you. Am I willing to trust Jesus, the person? Not any other thing. I'm willing to trust the person. I'm willing to trust Jesus because he's God. Not myself, not anyone, not anything else, but God. And so Peter says, at your word, I will lower the nets. And so you see the jump in Peter. And he walks the walk. And he talks the talk. And what he says is what he does. And he lowers the net. And there's something powerful there. He can only lower the nets because his boat is anchored in Jesus. He can only lower the nets because his boat, his life, is anchored on this word. At your word, I will lower the nets. So he's not doing this now based on his experience, based on his skills, based on his expertise, based on any other thing but the word of God. Have I ever reached that stage in my life where I say I'm not using any human intelligence because I've done anything and everything humanly possible, it has not worked? Have you ever reached a stage where you say, I'm doing this, I'm trusting, totally trusting in God. I give myself to your will. Self-abandonment into the hands of God. Consecration of ourselves, of our families, of our marriages to God. That's how Simon does this. He lowers the nets. And as he lowers the nets, he probably looks at Jesus and he's like, I'm waiting to see. And Jesus is like, oh, okay. But to Simon's greatest amazement, the catch is so great. The catch is so big that what happens in him, he realizes that they've lowered the nets, but he soon realizes that they've caught something far more greater than he anticipated. Because he starts waving and signaling to the partners, and he says to them, come and help. Come to our assistance. Now, this speaks volume to me. It speaks absolute great volumes to me. What does it say to me? It says to me, Simon, in all the years he has been a fisherman, he probably has never caught so much that his nets are threatened. He always thought that the nets he has were the most powerful, the most strong thing that he had. And to his greatest amazement, he's like, we've never caught something like this. And that's what God does. This is powerful for me. When we invite God and when we allow God to lead, to direct, to journey with us. What we get is so much. It's more than what we've bargained for. It's more than what we've anticipated. It's more than what we need. He gives in abundance. Go to the Gospel of John chapter 2, the wedding at Cana. Mary says to the servants, fill those jars. Well, Jesus says, fill those jars to the brim. Fill them up to the brim. Little did they know that they are filling these jars with water that Jesus will turn into wine. And so too in our lives, in inviting God, in allowing God, in having this self-abandonment to God, He fills our lives. He gives so much that our nets begin to tear because there's so much of grace. There's so much of goodness. There's so much of peace. There's so much of health. He gives us more than anything. For those who find that they want to give up, they want to let go, they want to walk out, they want to end their lives, well, give Jesus a chance. Let Him come where we think He's late, and you realize that God is never late. He's always on time. That His timing is so perfect that when He comes, He has a purpose. And so as they try to drag the nets with all these fish, and their helpers are there, and they're trying to get this thing onto the boat and out onto the shore, Peter realizes that, there's something about this man. There's something great about this man. And he goes and he throws himself in front of him. And Peter says, depart from me, Lord. I'm a sinful man. This miracle becomes so powerful that Peter realizes who he is. And that's something which I think we all need.
Together, growing in faith, changing communities.